Doctrine and Devotion is sponsored by Together for the Gospel. Together for the Gospel is happening April 14th through the 16th, 2020 in Louisville, Kentucky, and registration is now open. In fact, our listeners get a discount. Use the promo code DOCTRINE when checking out and save $10. Go to t4g.org for all the details. Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, a podcast exploring Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jimmy Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
Long day. It's a long Sunday.
It is, yeah.
It's a good day.
It was fun. We got to worship.
Yep, 3 times, fool.
Yep, that was good.
3 times.
And then we got to go hang out at Levita.
No.
Some of us hung out at
I had
Levita.
to teach a class. I preached 3 times.
We had a listener from Alabama.
Yeah, but but then I had to teach a class.
Daniel and I
taught
were
a
hanging
class
out with Steve
on
McCoy.
Worship and
we also had
music
Travell
worship
Rounds there.
Throughout church
and,
history.
Pat Aldridge
I
showed
do
up
that
there.
for our worship
We had a
leaders.
fantastic time.
Then I had to catch up with you guys.
Just getting to know each other,
and
praying
Daniel,
for each other.
Daniel from Alabama?
Daniel from Alabama.
I liked him.
Yeah.
So then I joined you at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
it went downhill.
Then it went, because every party needs a pooper. That's why you invite me.
That's why we call you Pastor Poopstain.
That's right. That's it. That's not the reason, but it works.
It works really well.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, it's a long day, but, it's been a long day for me, but it's been a longer day for some other people. Other people might have had a longer day, more difficult day.
Yeah.
I mean, was your day real difficult? Did you have any problems, any hiccups in your day?
No.
How about you, Travell?
Yeah, I had the worst day.
So
The worst day possible.
Our listeners already know who Travell Rounds is. Travell Rounds he's probably the most popular preacher here at Redeemer, including me. He's probably the most.
Yeah,
he's a very gifted preacher, future pastor, maybe even future church planter. He's praying through all of that stuff. A guy that's clearly called to ministry. Travell, in fact, you're going to be preaching in just a few weeks here at Redeemer.
Yeah.
What passage are you preaching?
Luke 20:1-8.
It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all need to hit the Redeemer Fellowship feed. And obviously you can check out my preaching, whatever. But check out Travell's sermon. Travell is such a gifted preacher. Our people love it, man. We really dig it, man. Thanks for making time to hang. I'm surprised you had time.
Thanks for having me. Finally,
Well, we were
finally.
I'm pretty famous on the podcast.
Yeah, you are.
Without ever being on the podcast.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean,
kinda
the
crazy.
thing is, you got to show up at church events to get invited to the podcast. So things like CG
I come to all kinds of groups.
groups, just none that are part of our
I'm
church.
a part of a lot of groups.
What group are you part of?
I can't talk about them.
Oh, you can't talk about it out
It's
here?
kind of like Fight Club,
Oh, so that's the first rule?
Yeah, you don't
talk about those things?
Gotcha.
Okay. I thought like you were like there are some groups that you might be a part of that, I don't know, like lawless groups, like there's like maybe lawbreakers group, like there's promise keepers, then there's lawbreakers. I feel like you might fall into
Gotcha.
based on we were
Whoa,
having
why do you look at him and say he's a lawbreaker?
I don't have to look at him to know because he told me the story today, and that's why Travell's on the podcast. We were having a conversation at Levita with Travell about what went down today, and of course we're laughing, and Travell can have a good time about it. But it was actually like a really frustrating and painful, and not an uncommon experience for you.
Not at all.
So if you don't know Travell, if you can't tell by his first name, Travell is African American, and now at Redeemer, so.
We're a very diverse church. Super diverse.
Because we have African American here at our church.
Yeah, we have
not African Americans.
We have tons of African Americans that pass by the church driving.
Okay,
but the one that come in is me.
Okay, that's Travell.
Yeah.
So because it's interesting because generationally we're diverse, socioeconomically we're diverse. St. Charles is 94% Anglo, so we don't expect a lot of ethnic diversity. So we don't have a lot of that. But Travell, why don't you tell the story about how you even wound up at Redeemer?
Yeah, that's a good story.
You grew up south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
Now you were living in Elgin, and but how did you wind up here at Redeemer?
Yeah, so the gist of it is I was in college in Wisconsin, and I was coming home. I wanted to find a church. During that time in college, my theology started to change towards more Reformed theology.
How did that happen?
So I grew up in church, and a fun part of my story is I've been preaching since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So I've been doing
kind
it
of
for a
church
long
is that?
time. I grew up in a Pentecostal church.
That
So,
explains
like,
There it is.
So basically
There
what
it
happens
is.
is if you have any guy who's pretty excited about the Lord, they're like, you should probably preach the gospel.
At 9.
At 9 years old. So at 9 years old, I started preaching, and so I went off to college. And after I was in college, and I was living kind of like a prodigal. I was first time I was free. I grew up in like a legalist kind of church, a holiness Pentecostal church, which means there's a lot of rules and regulations, things you can and cannot do. And so when I got off on my own in college, it was great. And so I was also a part of our story is because I was a Pentecostal. Pentecostals are only people who are saved. So
really?
if you're a Pentecostal listening, sorry about that, but it's probably true. We're the only ones saved because we understand the fullness of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, you got the ghost.
So, which means I didn't go to any other church that wasn't Pentecostal. And there was no Pentecostal churches around in Wisconsin, so I didn't go when I was in college. So, but I love preaching.
Yeah.
So because I love preaching, I still listen to a lot of preaching. So I would go out and I would drink and I would party, but I would still come home and listen to preaching. So I started listening to one preacher who's very popular, super reformed. His name's Stephen Furtick. And but he did bring in a reformed preacher or reformish. I don't know how people categorize him. But
I know
it's
who you're
Matt
talking
Chandler.
about. Matty Chandler.
And he preached God is for God, a sermon that if you have not heard, you need to go listen. It's probably still on YouTube.
It's a good word and a controversial word in the setting he was in.
Yes.
That was Code Orange at the Code
Code
Orange.
Orange,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And that exposed me to something that I've heard before, but I never heard it the way that he put it before. And there was a lot of online people, probably reformed people at the time. I didn't know that, but they were not happy about the sermon. It got taken down and eventually put back up. And when it got put back up, I was like, I need to know why they didn't want this sermon out there. And that's when I started going through Reformed theology, learning about the 5 points and on and on and on until I discovered a guy by the name of Mark Dever. And his thing is ecclesiology. So the Holy Spirit convicted me on being in church. And so I came home and I was like, I have to get into a church. And I didn't know anything about Reformed theology or like denominations, because I grew up in a denomination that I know that if it has this name on the church, I know I'm in the right church. But it's not like that with Reformed people. You can't really.
Shiloh missionary.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a thing. And so Matt Chandler was at an 829. So I looked up the closest 829 church. It happened to be two churches from my home that were in different directions, but the same distance away from me. One was Redeemer and one was Redemption with Ryan Hughley at the time.
Huggy.
Yeah.
Huggy Bear, yep.
So I was like, I'm going to check them both out. So I came to Redeemer first, and man, y'all loved me here, and I never left. And that was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
I remember you said, the way you summarized it at the time, you're like, that morning, you're like, guess I'm going to go try a white church.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be uncomfortable here. I knew I was going to hate it. I was like, there's no way that growing up in a black church, growing up in a black Pentecostal church, I'm going to be comfortable at a white church. And you guys rocked my world in the sense that you guys loved me. Obviously, you knew that I was new because you've never seen one of me before. But
well, listen, I might have seen I don't know, sightings of African Americans at Redeemer is probably about 3, right?
At the time, there was actually 2. There was a female and a male that
Yeah.
was coming here already.
Yeah. Now, and they both had to move on, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
That's Travell, one and only. Now, so Travell, great preacher, great brother, man. You came in and people were just like, "Oh man, great, what's up?" Because they're super friendly to everybody.
Yeah.
Even Daniel was talking about that. You know, a new guy here, he just felt really welcome. So you were really transparent, like, and that's a big thing for us. Like, you were just real honest about things.
Yeah.
And so, like, wow, we're like, oh, this guy's legit. We want to get to know him, and so it's just been family ever since. Now, today, I came into the cigar shop. You guys had already been talking, and Steve and Jimmy were like, Travell, you need to tell that story, that what just happened today. And in light of a lot of the conversations that are happening now, social justice, anti-social justice, critical race theory, in light of, some of the discrepancies that we hear about between the experience of African Americans in certain situations versus maybe Anglos in the same situation, all of that sort of connects with this thing that happened today. Now, for the record, we're probably going to laugh a bit at some of this stuff because that's how we process here, right?
Yeah.
But this is actually a painful thing. This was a garbage day.
Yeah.
This is not a good day for you, and we're not looking to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. We just want to have a conversation here. We want to continue the conversation that we started at the cigar shop, because we need to have more of these conversations, because I feel like there are too many people, particularly white people,
Yeah.
who talk within their own circle about these issues
Yeah.
without actually hearing what is happening in other people's experiences who maybe are in a different part of the city or of their state. So, Travell, you were at church.
What happened today?
We worshiped together.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
So I came to church, because it's Sunday, and that's what I do.
That's what you do.
That's a group that I'm a part of, Jimmy.
There's a group.
Just want you to know.
Yeah. It's
So I
good.
showed up to church.
Yeah, just won't show up Thursday nights, but continue.
We won't talk about that. After church was over, typically my thing, it's football season. It's the first day of Sunday football.
Yep.
So I was going to La Vida to grab a smoke and watch some football. And so I was driving from the church, and the church and La Vida are about 5 minutes apart from each other. So it's a normal drive that I've taken many, many times. But this time I'm driving, and I drive past a cop, and every time, doesn't matter what's going on, if I drive past a cop, and I'm sure there are some people who can resonate with this, I get an eerie feeling like I don't know what I'm checking. Mirrors, seatbelts on, am I speeding? I don't know what I've done, but I feel like I've done something wrong. I have no clue why I feel that way, but it is the way I feel.
And a lot of people will feel that way. They get a little nervous when they get behind a cop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes justified, sometimes not.
Right. So in my mind, I'm all clear. Everything that I got insurance, seatbelts on, car works, everything's functioning. And I see the cop pull out from behind me, and I go, I really want to speed up because I'm so close to La Vida.
Just
like,
make it to the
if I
cigar
get to
shop.
La Vida, I'm safe. But he pulls me over immediately. Light come on immediately. He pulls me over, and he gets out of the car, and he goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was like, "Yeah, good." And he's like, "Looking really nervous today. Is there a reason why you're nervous?" It's like, because I'm getting pulled over by a cop. I don't understand why you don't understand.
Most
why
people
I'm
are nervous, I feel like, right?
I'm sure
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a
I'm
normal
always
thing
nervous.
for people.
Yeah.
And then he
I'm
tells
always
me,
nervous. Joe's not.
That's
Because
okay. I'm never nervous.
Joe's never
Okay.
nervous.
This is why Joe needed to hear the story today.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I get pulled over all the time.
He doesn't have this experience.
But I don't have this experience. Yeah.
never.
No.
He tells me, he says, did you know you have a crack in your taillight? I said, no, I don't look at my car like that. I get in it and drive it. And I was like,
So it's working. It's not,
It's work. No,
yeah.
the light works. It's just a crack in it.
Okay.
And he pulls me over and he says, yeah, it's just a thing. So we want to check it out. And he's like, you got your license registered. He goes through all this stuff. Give him my license. He goes to his car and he's there for a minute. And anytime that a cop is in his car for longer than 2 to 3 minutes, you know it's not good. Mm-hmm. So I'm sweating. And then he comes back and he goes, I need you to step out of the car. And I go, all right. Because I'm not going to argue with
You're
him.
going to comply because you know how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. And as I'm getting out of the car, I go, is there something wrong? And he goes, you have a warrant out for your arrest.
Jeez.
And I go, for what? Are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, you missed a court date and you got a warrant out for your arrest.
So you had a traffic ticket or something that you had to...
Yeah. Got a speeding ticket. Apparently I paid the ticket and, but still had to go to court. I didn't know, didn't show up. So now I have a warrant out for my arrest. And, does the thing, searches me, asks me if I have anything, puts me in handcuffs, put me in the back of the
Does
car.
not put you in handcuffs, dude.
Oh yeah, for sure. He cuffs me.
Okay.
Well, that's a normal thing. If you're going to get arrested, you got to get
I wouldn't
cuffed.
know. I mean,
Oh, yeah, you get cuffed.
Yeah, Joe,
I'm sure
Joe
that's
doesn't
normal.
know those things.
Oh, that's normal procedure. So he cuffs me, puts me in the back of the car, and then I have one thing in my mind. Are you going to tow my car or not?
Where were you parked? Were you parked
I
at the
was
side of the
parked-
road or something?
No, I was parked on a street that has lines for parking.
Oh, you were street parking.
I
Yeah.
was legally parked on the street. And the cop goes, well, we'll see what happens. And sure enough, yeah, they towed my car.
Why didn't they just leave it there?
I asked, same thing I asked him. I said, hey, I'm legally parked. It should be okay to leave my car here. It's like, I'm not quite sure of our policy, and I don't have the paper on me to go through it. And I was like, is there somebody you can call? You can call your sergeant, you know, maybe call another officer who may have the policy on them. And he goes, I'm just going to go on the side of we're going to tow the car,
Okay.
which, it is what it is. He towed the car. Takes me, books me, go down to the station. You know, they do the thing. I'm a criminal now. I get my pictures taken, fingerprints
You get the
taken,
mugshot.
mugshot,
Really?
with and without my glasses. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
could
know
be a
they-
disguise,
They
Travell.
asked for tattoos. That makes sense, identifying markers. But they're like, those glasses, we got to make sure that, so if I ever change my glasses, I could be You know,
So wait, does it do
mistaken
that? Do they
identity.
do the fingerprint thing?
They fingerprinted
Ink
me.
or digital?
It's digital.
Oh,
And
St.
it
Charles,
sucks.
fancy.
It sucks.
Why?
We stood there probably 15 minutes
To get it to work?
Oh yeah, it sucked. We did it like over and over again, and like it was horrible. And then they book me. They give me all my papers, and then they charge me. They say, "Hey, you have to pay a bond to get out, or we have to take you down to county." I was like, "How much is it?"
World.
So I pay the bond to get out. Funny thing about that is that they don't accept credit cards. So he walks me down to the front of the building and takes me to the ATM and has me to get money out.
Okay.
And the ATM has like normally an ATM probably has like $2 or $3.
Yeah, $3.50 at the
This
most
is
usually.
a $5.50 fee for their ATM. $5.50 on top of the large amount of money that I'm already
Wait,
getting
wasn't there a booking fee too?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I had to pay 10% of the bond plus another $70 fee, $75 fee,
Yeah, I saw that on the ticket.
plus a $50 booking fee. So they charged me for them to arrest me.
So okay,
They're like,
hold
we're
on.
going to arrest you, but you have to pay for this.
Okay, now recently in the news for us, and right around the corner in Sandwich,
Yep.
right in Sandwich, the mayor there was just arrested.
I don't know if it was just, but yeah,
arrested
relatively
for
recently.
soliciting prostitution,
Right.
And he had to pay a bond to get out. It was like $150.
It was definitely. I feel
was
like
like
it was
100 it was
cheaper than it's cheaper than
150.
$2. Yeah.
So how much was you didn't share? How much was your bond?
Mine was 10% of the 3,000. So if you know quick math, that's $300 for that.
Okay. Plus the $50.
Plus the $50, plus another $75. And there was another hidden fee that were PTA is what he called it. He didn't explain that to me, but that,
Parent Teachers Association.
Yeah,
gets
they
a cut.
you got to pay for stuff. Yeah.
eventually to get myself out of jail today, I paid a whopping $490.
And that's not including what you're going to need to pay to get.
Plus,
Your car back.
They towed my car, so I have to go and pay St. Charles a $500 fee so they can print me a receipt. So then I can take it to the tow company and show them that they released my car, plus pay whatever the towing fees are.
Right.
So,
But the mayor of Sandwich only paid $150.
Whatever it was less. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm already like, a grand, 1,500 in the hole today. Yeah.
Now,
It's been a great day.
so this is, there's one level at which it's embarrassing, right? Because you're a Christian man, like you love the Lord,
Yeah.
you live a righteous life,
for sure.
relatively, like
Sure,
none of us
as
are.
much as I-
So you're a good and godly man. You're a
Yeah.
friend and a brother. So this is embarrassing, right? As a Christian in town, right?
It's
where
also
you work.
in St. Charles, 5 minutes from the church that I just left.
Yeah.
2 minutes away from the cigar shop that I go to very often. So, and what happened funny is that a member of the church drove by and saw me getting arrested, and they texted me, called me to find out if everything was okay. But at the time, I didn't have my phone or anything.
Yeah.
So it's embarrassing because not only
And you're
am
a
I getting
preacher.
arrested, I'm a preacher.
Yeah.
For whatever that means, but I'm a preacher. I love the Lord. I work hard. I pay my taxes, all that good stuff. I try to the best of my ability, be a good citizen. And now here I am in cuffs, arrested. I'm a criminal.
Now, this is not unique to African Americans. There are white people that will go through the same experience, right? And so I'm not saying that we're not suggesting that like this doesn't happen to white people. Of course it does. It happens to a lot of people. But like, we've had conversations about, your experience with some law enforcement officers versus my experience with all law enforcement officers, right? So we know there are great cops, right? We've got great cops here at the church. I'm pro police. I'm thankful for those that serve us well and are faithful. Lots of good people, and of course, like with any group, there's going to be people that are not doing a good job. There are going to be some that are just jerks and some that are racist, of course. So we're not saying anything about this particular officer because we don't know what was going on. But your experience and the other black friends that I have who talk to me about their experiences with officers are radically different than my experiences. When we have the same infractions. And so, some people would say, well, this is, you're talking about one guy's experience and you're making it about him being black. We are not making this about you being black. You are black. You're an African American. And so this is your experience. Now, we've joked about it on the podcast that I'll get pulled over for no front license plate, no seat belt.
Registration is, or no, your
No,
sticker
my,
is.
I don't have the current registration sticker on my
your
license
sticker is
plate
expired,
on the back, and
you're
The one
talking
time
on your
you-
phone.
oh no, I'm not talking on my
The
phone.
one time you didn't have your insurance and he just trusted that you had it.
And I never had my insurance card.
Yeah.
And they
I
pulled,
Instagram liked it once.
yeah, because Jimmy's like, you're gonna get a ticket. I guarantee you, I won't get a ticket. And they're like, hey man, it's all good. Don't worry about it. Just hey, buckle up and do these other things. And that it's happened so much. It's kind of funny, And here's the thing. I know you and I have the same approach to the officers, right? Comply.
Yes.
Hands up at 10 and 2, windows down,
that's
lights on. We have the same compliance
absolutely.
approach, right? We're going to comply. We're not going to have attitude.
Yeah.
But you have pretty consistently had a different experience with these things, which is why you got a ticket earlier and had to go back.
This is not unique to me. The speeding ticket that I got was maybe a mile away from my house with an officer that I knew because I worked at a gas station. He would always come in and I worked third shift at the
Right.
time. So I knew the officer. He pulled me over for speeding and he was like, yeah.
Yeah,
still
but
gonna give you-
75 and a 25, Trebell. Will
I was not doing that. That's not what was happening. It was a mile from my house, which means I know those roads and I know the speed limits. And till this day,
You're a little heavy, maybe a little.
I don't believe I was going as fast as he said I was.
Yeah.
I could have been speeding. There's no doubt about that. But like,
So, I'm not going to mention any names, but I have a friend who lived in Chicago, grew up in Chicago, African American, and he's hanging out at night, a half a block down from his house, sitting on a bench waiting for his friends to pick him up, and some cops roll up and they are like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm waiting for my friends." They're like, "Where do you live?" And so for me, this is already bothering me. I get saying, "Hey, what's going on?" What do you? I'm just hanging out, waiting for my friends. All right, cool. Have a nice night. That's checking in on people's normal. That's a good thing. And they start pressing. He's like, "I live over there." And they're like, "No, what's your address?" And he's like, "What are you giving me a hard time for?" And I know this guy. He's a Christian guy. He's a believer. He's actually well known. And handcuffed on the ground, searched. So the reason I think we need to have these conversations to talk about experiences and what's going on is because I don't know that let me put it this way. There are problems in our culture and in our society that deal with the issue of race and with authority, right? We see problems with this in the church, problem in the government, right? So it's everywhere. We all have problems. And so we're trying to figure out, so what are the best ways for us to deal with these problems? How do we best diagnose the issue and then press in with practical solutions? Now, on a biblical theological level, I feel comfortable talking about these issues. But one of the things that we've said, I've said as a white guy, as a super white guy, I was on a panel at Legacy, right? So it was Lecrae and me and some other people that I don't remember. But so it was
Shoot Chan
Ra's al Ghul. I don't know. I don't know.
I was there for that.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
So you were there. Oh, that's right. Because I talked you up from the stage.
That's right,
I
yeah.
said you were single, I think, too.
Yeah. You do
I'm
that
always
often.
looking out for Travell.
Yeah, what up, ladies?
Yeah, he's
So-
still single.
Yeah, he's still single, but now he's got a record. So I don't know. Maybe I'll stop promoting. You're gonna have a great ministry in prison, dude. Nobody's gonna preach as well as you do
You
in
and
prison.
Scott are going to do fantastic teaming up. One from the outside, one from the in.
It's gonna be great.
All right. So, and I remember I said at the stage, listen, when we're having discussions about race relations, the problem of racism, I'm happy to talk about it from a biblical theological perspective. But I wind up doing more listening than talking in the midst of these conversations because I have not had to personally deal with racism.
Yeah.
I haven't because I'm a white guy in a white neighborhood. I don't deal with it. I don't even see it. I don't even see the problems that are out there because I live in a pretty homogeneous place.
Yeah.
So when it comes to these race issues, I like to do a lot of listening. Now, remember, Chandler said the same thing, and he got lit up by some of the anti-social justice people as if he's saying well, I have nothing to say about the issue whatsoever, biblically, theologically, when all he's really saying is, listen, white people who don't have these experiences would do well to listen. And try to understand where are you coming from, what's happened, and from there maybe we can begin to talk about what are some of the good ways we can press in with works of grace, right? So we have words of grace in preaching and theology, and that is paramount to what we do as Christians. That is the church's primary job. We preach, we make disciples. and through changed hearts and, regeneration and all of that, people change, and that can have an impact. But there are also social issues at play. There are practical issues that we have to address. And
go ahead.
there we need to be willing to listen, to try to figure out and learn from each other. What can we do together?
Well, and I think part of this is that I think some people there's pushback in the sense like, well, why can't I speak into this? Why shouldn't I have a voice? And it's not because they're like, well, I'm not racist. I don't have that. And we're not saying, and I don't think anyone's really saying you're racist, right?
No.
I think what it's coming down to is you don't know.
Right.
Like you could look at the same situation and see it completely different than from a minority point of view.
Right.
Like take for example, it was a year and a half ago, maybe there was that one high school wrestler.
Yeah, they got his dreads cut.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so everyone's cheering him on.
Yeah.
All the white fans are cheering him on. His white teammates are cheering him on.
Yeah.
And he's balling. And his black friends are just
They feel that same pain.
They felt the pain of it.
There's kind of a collective.
There's a collective because there's part of that
suffering.
identity. This is and so here it is. This individual is being stripped of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise he can't perform. And a lot of the white commentators were like, "Well, man, look at the sportsmanship of this guy, the team player mentality." Well, no, he was stripped of his identity and was forced to do that. And you don't understand that. You don't. Some people just you look at it and you don't understand what someone's going through.
Right. Because I know like people like, so it's long hair. Like, what if when I was in high school, you couldn't have long hair and be a wrestler. And they were like, well, if you want to be a wrestler, and I didn't want to be, but they wanted me to be on because I was little and they needed a little guy.
Yeah.
And like, you'd have to cut that hair. And I'm like, well, forget about it. That's not going to be a thing. And that was a big part of my, subcultural identity was this long rocker hair. But it's still different, right? In that, the whole African American hair issue itself is radically different from the Anglo hair issues. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it means because you've never had a conversation with a black person about hair.
Yeah. I'm currently growing out my hair.
Yeah, it looks
and
a little...
the amount of conversations that I've had with white folks about like, oh, you're doing something new with your hair, or can I touch it? Or
no one says can I touch it.
Somebody here said they want to touch
that
it.
happens at church.
At Redeemer? Oh, my God.
But
Are they children at least?
No, they're adults.
Steve McCoy. Is it Steve McCoy?
It's Steve McCoy.
And it's not Steve McCoy.
Really?
No, Steve McCoy's great. I love him.
No, you're just trying to get
Steve
it.
McCoy.
You're
if
trying
for
to...
any reason you may have available children who happen to be female.
That's a shout out to Sarah McCoy.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, no, these experiences are not unique to me in any way, and so when I talk about these issues, or when African Americans talk about these experiences, they're coming from a place where, no, this is what I've personally experienced. This is not in theory.
Yeah.
Every day, I'm aware of my blackness. Every day. I live in a majority white community.
How often am I aware of my whiteness? Never. I'm never aware because it's not an issue.
Yeah.
I'm aware completely of how I look, how I present myself, how I talk. Everything about me wants to be presentable to make sure that I'm not going to be sterilized. Or
that too. Don't want to be that. Don't want to be sterilized.
I don't want to be, a stereotypical what you think I am, because I'm educated, I'm smart, I talk, I'm articulate, all that good stuff. But like, I just don't want to present myself in a way to our culture, which is dominated by white thought and white thinking, because that's the world that I live in. And so I know that if I'm driving around with very loud music, then I know I'm going to be looked at with, some kind of suspicion. Why are you playing that music so loud? Like, turn it down, be more respectful. So these are not unique experiences. This being pulled over I got pulled over for a crack in my taillight, though my taillight worked. That was nothing. I've been pulled over for lesser. And it's not even just experiences with cops. It's experiences with, I'm walking around and someone says something insensitive because they just don't understand. Yeah. So yeah, these are not unique experiences. So when we say you should listen more, I'm not saying that you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation. Right. What I'm saying is that you may not understand the experience that I'm having, so let me relay to you why I think the way I think and I view the way I view. It's because these things are very personal to me.
Yeah.
And very real.
Yeah.
And painful, man. And this is, because again, like, for a lot of us, not all of us, because not everybody's wired this way, but the three of us here certainly, laughter is catharsis for us. Like it is one of the ways that we process our pain, and so there's a place for that. But there's also a needed place for weeping. There's a needed place for frustration and anger. And again, listen, I know some of you are thinking, well, some of you already tuned out. You're gone. Bye. But then some of you are thinking like, well, I don't understand what the big deal is. Lots of people have bad experiences. Lots of people get judged. And you are coming at it from, when you say that, you're not trying to understand the other person. You're trying to relate your perspective and your experience, which there's validity to that. But what you need to do is take a beat to listen to somebody and try to understand maybe what it is that you have missed in their experience that is a legit complaint. Here's the thing, Travell. On all the conversations that we've had over these years, you've never been this whiny, self-righteous,
never.
conspiracy guy.
Nope.
You've never been that way, and most people that I know that are minorities aren't that way. In fact, I know more conspiracy theorists who are white than I do. It's more of a white thing, really.
Yeah,
you have the ability to.
Yeah, you have that. Yeah, that's your privilege to go ahead and be.
I don't want to use that word, but some would say it's your privilege.
All right, let's come back and talk about privilege in just a minute. Okay. All right, but you know what? Everybody has some privilege, Jimmy. And the privilege that everybody has is they can register for the Together for the Gospel Conference in 2020 in Louisville, Kentucky.
Now, what is this year? What's this year's theme, Joe?
Entrusted with the Gospel. Entrusted with the Gospel. You know, they got guys like our man Ligon Duncans.
Oh, the Ligon Duncans is my jam.
We got Mark Dever, John Piper, Kevin DeYoung, Al Mohler, H.B. Charles, Greg Gilbert, Trip Lee, Ed Moore, David Platt, Richard Chin.
And the Jofo. Yeah,
well,
maybe.
We might go.
We don't want to promise, and we can't really share some of the conversations that we're having with the organizers.
Yeah,
we may or may not be having with them about whether or not we will be on stage, probably running the whole event.
It's possible. It's within the realm of possibility that they've asked us to do a live D&D recording instead of having Al Mohler preach. That could have happened.
That might have happened.
That's possible. But here's what you do. The conference is April 14th through the 16th, 2020 in Louisville. Now, early bird pricing ends October 31st. You need to get on this now because it's going to go up to like $1 million or something. So you want to get into it before October 31st. Plus, if you do that now, you can use our promo code. We have our own. They gave us a promo code.
That's right. Doctrine. And you save $10.
Save $10 off an individual ticket. You go to t4g.org and register.
So make sure you post on social media that you're going. Make sure you tag T4G, tag the Jofo, and ask, what session does the Jofo got?
Yeah. They should at least have the largest room for their breakout session. I think that
we really should.
I was just saying. And you know what? We'll even bring Travell. If you guys will give it, we'll bring Travell too. We'll do like 3 of us up there.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we'll
Thanks,
see. We'll see.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll talk about it.
It's
yeah. Well, no, you got a record now. I don't know if I could have you up there.
Yeah.
I may not be able to travel.
You might not be able to travel.
Can't cross state lines. Yeah.
Travel can't travel.
Yeah. If you haven't picked up, his name is Travel Rounds. Travel around.
Travel A Rounds.
Yeah. That's your middle name? What's your middle name?
My middle name is Alan. And so my name is
Travel.
The first name is Travell. Middle initials A. My last name is Rounds.
Your mom was messing with you.
Travel A Rounds is my name.
Your mom was so messing with you.
T4G.org. Use the promo code Doctrine. Save $10.
Travel A Round. All right. So let's talk about white privilege because I have my thoughts. I know Pulpit and Pen has their thoughts. Tom Askell has his thoughts, and Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle.
What's his last name?
Which Kyle?
Kyle. He's on social media. We know him. Kyle. I just remember his last name.
Kyle that's on social media. That's the one I'm talking about.
Kyle. Kyle, you know who you are.
Kyle, you know you are.
So everybody has these different. Jimmy doesn't know. He's looking it up. All right.
No, let you move on.
Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. All right. So let me know when you find it, Jimmy. We all have our perspectives on this. I think it's fair to say.
Kyle Howard. Come on.
Howard.
How did you not know Kyle
Howard?
I'm just letting you sit around.
All right. Feeling dumb.
We'll go ahead and do Roman numerals again and see how
by
well
the
you
way,
do.
Somebody came up to me today and they're like, oh man, one of our pilots with the good hair. He was like, I was flying. So I was in my pilot's uniform. I'm sitting there, but I'm with everybody else because I'm being flown somewhere. And I'm listening to Doctrine and Devotion, the one where Jimmy made you read Roman numerals wrong. And I'm like, look, for the record, Jimmy didn't know it either. He goes, no, I know Jimmy didn't know it. but it's obvious what it is. And then he broke it down. He's like, well, you know, Septuagint, what is that? And he doing all this stuff, make me feel stupid. And he said, I was laughing so hard, everybody's looking at me like, what's wrong with this pilot? No, anyways, thanks a lot, Jimmy, for making me feel stupid. Anyways, Kyle Howard, there you go. All these different perspectives. I think it's fair to say, whenever you're talking about an issue like this, there are going to be bad representations and good representations.
Yes.
There's going to be some people that talk about it and you're like, oh, what you're saying there is true. And other people are like, you're just making stuff up, man. This is crazy and it's dangerous what you're saying. So when it comes to white privilege, I think that's fair to say. There are some people that would articulate it in a way where I would say I totally disagree, and then other ways in which they might talk about it where I say that's fair. And by the way, people, when you're listening to somebody that you might disagree with, try this. In what ways are they right? And in what ways are they wrong?
Oh no, come
Try
on,
that.
Joe, that's way too much, charity among
Yeah, I
the
know.
brethren.
It's a little hard. So from your perspective, right, and because we're friends, I know you're not going to hold back. What is white privilege? Is that a thing? Is white privilege a thing?
Short answer, yes.
Oh, stop it, Travell.
How dare
There's
you?
no.
Short answer, absolutely.
Okay, so what do you
try
think
to
of?
define my terms? So when I'm talking to somebody about this who doesn't seem to understand, I want them to know that when you first think privilege, you go, and this is the objection I normally get, and it's by and large the one that everyone comes back with immediately. Privilege? Are you kidding me? I grew up, my parents weren't wealthy. I went to college. I got a degree. I've made something of myself. What privilege are you talking about? I had it just, and I go, probably. I grew up and I have a degree of privilege. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Shut up, Jimmy. And
What was that about?
you always deny the fact that I
when
grew
you
up on
grow
the south
up,
side of Chicago.
Jimmy, when you grow up somewhere, what's the age range?
I would say until you're like 16, 17.
That's right.
Now, and you left when you were 3.
I left Chicago when I was about 12 years old.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
that's
So
pretty
I
good
grew
then.
up on the south side of Chicago.
Okay, all right.
But we moved to the burbs. Mm-hmm. I saw my mom and my dad, my stepfather, work through school.
Yep.
My dad happens to be a doctor.
American
My
dream
stepfather-
stuff, man. American dream stuff.
He's an immigrant, came from Africa.
Sweet.
Worked hard,
Yep.
got a degree, became a doctor. My mom's a nurse, worked hard. While we were growing up, I saw them do that. Then we moved out to the suburbs and we just got to be poor around rich people. It was great. But I had a better experience than I did if I would have lived than some of my cousin who stayed in the city.
So privilege is a relative term, really.
Yeah.
Because it depends sort of on and what level of privilege, what kind of privilege, what context.
So when we're talking white, well, at least when I'm talking white privilege,
Right.
I don't want to speak for anyone else. I don't mean that, you didn't have a rough life or it was hard or you didn't
Yeah, you
fight
didn't
for
have to
what
work,
had.
yeah.
That's not what I mean. What I mean by white privilege is that there are things that you are privileged with that you're unaware of. So I try to break down in the simplest of terms of what, for me, it's so easy for me to be in a room and know immediately I'm the only black person here. For most white people, they don't understand that because you have the privilege of, you can go through the American school system and get the highest degree of PhD and never have to learn anything about African American history or black culture or anything of that. I can't get a GED without knowing white history in this country. That's a privilege.
Now, wouldn't somebody say that's just American history, though?
Sure. But if we're talking where we live in the context of where we live, but if we look at the world, look
Globally, yep.
who dominates the world? Who colonized most of the world? It was white folks, European people.
And even when we say that when somebody might say, well, it's just American history that happens to be mostly white, I think there's still an aspect where, there is a more collective identity among African Americans that they're conscious of
Yes.
than there is among white people, right? And so, 'cause again, the fact that we're not conscious of it creates certain problems. So you're saying, and I really hear this, right? That we get the month, right? We get this month. We get February, right? Yeah, we always have Trevor preach in February. That was always the joke. Trevor was like,
When I
"We
first
have me preach
started
in February."
coming,
It wasn't on
month
purpose. It just happened to
every
land that way.
month for like the first 2 years that I was here, I got to preach in February.
Okay,
So,
well, I'm
my
saying
month.
it wasn't on purpose, but it was still kind of funny.
It was
Okay.
hilarious.
So there's one aspect. You're just talking about culturally, like where you learn. I think it's fair to say this about white, and I appreciate what you said. Like, just because you're white doesn't mean that you didn't struggle. Like, there are tons of very poor, destitute white people that have nothing, live on food stamps, all that. And so, do they have privilege? I would say they still have some privilege. Now, they don't have as much as I had growing up.
Right.
I had a lot. Jimmy had a lot of privilege growing up, right? Doesn't mean that we didn't have hardships and all that, but the privilege that comes with being white is that many things are going to be a bit easier for a white person than they are for a black person. There are less hurdles than there are for African. And then people are like, so name the hurdles. What are the hurdles? And the hurdles come down to general prejudice by those who are the majority and are in power. And I'm not saying that everybody's racist and all that, but when Travell Round's name shows up on an application, it's not necessarily good or bad consciously or anything like that, but it's noted, even if it's just sort of subconsciously noted. It's noted. Oh, it's a black guy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good for us. Maybe it's not good for us, and it starts to factor in. Whereas a white guy may not have the same issues. I'm comfortable saying, if I had to choose the easiest route in America, and I had to pick a skin color, I ain't picking black as the easiest route to pursue the American dream.
No way.
I'm not going to do that because I think in general it's a bit harder. Whether that's because of the whole idea of systemic racism, I don't buy that so much. I think that there is racism that is present in some of our systems in places, but systemic racism is a more complicated issue. I don't necessarily buy that, but that there is racism is certainly true, and I am never going to be on the wrong end of racism where it's going to matter for cultural advancement. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be the victim of racism or reverse racism by somebody, or prejudice by somebody who is black or Hispanic or whatever. But it means the cultural impact of that is going to be insignificant versus a black person experiencing it in a predominantly white context.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've been told consistently by the men who have been in my life who are black that no matter what happens and no matter how far you advance in life, you will always have to work twice as hard, maybe 3 times harder than a normal white person.
And so for the people that hear that and they bristle, some people are going to hear that and they're going to bristle.
Oh, yeah.
And I think here's the thing. I'm a guy that naturally gets annoyed and angry at stuff. Like my heart wants to respond quickly. And what I've learned to do, now that I'm getting older.
Yeah, now that you're what are you, 72?
47. 47.
You're a liar.
I'm
Why
47.
are you lying?
You are lying.
47.
No, you're over 50. You're 50.
I'm 47.
You just turned 50.
Born in 1972.
He just turned 50.
The point is.
I don't know, why are you lying about your age,
The
though?
older I get, the more I learn, I have to ask myself, why am I bristling? Why am I pushing back? And what I find sometimes is, because I'm right here, Ed. This is an unfair thing that's being presented, and I want to approach it. But other times, I'm recognized like, you know what's? I'm bristling here because I'm uncomfortable and I don't like what I'm hearing. But that doesn't mean it's not true, and it certainly doesn't mean that I don't need to think about it and try to understand. So when you say, listen, my experience is I was told, and I believe that I have to work harder as an African American than maybe as a white American. Now, if that's true, that doesn't mean that you can't succeed. It doesn't mean that you can't be a total legend in your field, right? Whether that's science or sports or medicine or business or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you can't be a legend. But when you talk to those African Americans that have become legends in their field, though they would say that it's been a ton of hard work. Now, the whites are going to say the same thing, right? We're going to say the same thing. It took a ton of hard work,
right?
But I'm comfortable saying there were more obstacles along the way for the minority. And I have a hard time understanding why people would push back on that.
I'm not trying to take away the work that you did.
Right.
I just want you to realize that there are more hurdles on my road than there may be on yours. For reasons that, we may never know.
Yeah.
But there are hurdles that I'm going to have to jump over that you will never have to even think about jumping over.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just not a reality for you to have to jump over that kind of hurdle. The fact that I get pulled over, and I'm sure a lot of African Americans can feel this way, that I have to be conscious of every move that I make.
Yeah.
Even license registrations. My wallet is on the front seat. So, sir, I'm going to move my hand. For other people, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go dig through some stuff and grab it. It is what it is. But your mind has never thought, you're not trained, I guess, in a way to think, this could be life or death, this situation that I'm in right now.
So, Travell, do you, in your experience, African American in America, 21st century, do you have a general feeling about white people, or no general feeling towards white people? Do you view everybody as an individual, or like how do you? I mean, that's probably a question that some listeners might be asking.
It's a good question. In general, there is a collective thought about white people in my mind. I know that everyone, I've met tons of my best friend's white.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that me?
No, Jimmy.
Oh, he ain't white.
Yeah, see, that's the other way. He likes half of me.
He likes the white half, yeah.
So there is a thought in my mind that says that not to generalize people or to stereotype people, but there is a collective thought in my mind that yes, white people are this, but when I meet you, you may not be that.
So what is a this? I mean, is it? I think white people are generally racist. I think white people are generally ignorant of race issues. Like, what is the this?
Yeah,
or one of them.
When we're talking about this particular conversation, I want to be very cautious to call someone racist. Mm-hmm. Very cautious to say that you are a racist. But what I will say is that you're ignorant, and meaning ignorant in the meaning of what ignorant means. You just don't understand.
Right.
You don't know.
You lack knowledge.
And you don't understand because you haven't been in situations where this has been relevant for you. Mm-hmm. And the ones that have been in situations, they're the enlightened ones, I guess we could say.
Yeah, they're woke.
I don't like that word.
What?
I hate that word.
What? I'm calling Mason.
You like Mason.
I didn't read Woke Church. Didn't read it.
Oh,
but I love Dr. Eric Mason.
Oh, Eric,
I love him. By the way, he was on the podcast.
And I think I love him. Didn't he revoke your black card on the podcast?
He did. So don't listen to me about anything. I have nothing to say about this. Also, just because I'm black doesn't mean that I'm a scholar in this particular area.
Yeah. Of course.
But I do have experiences
right.
that I can talk about personally that mean something to me.
Yeah. And I think what's really important here is when we're talking about dialoguing and having conversation, right? Oftentimes, we kind of said on the front end, within the anti-social justice movement, it's like there's a certain perspective that is, or an assumption that's already made about minorities, right? In the sense that I'm trying to word it in the right way, because they come about it that all black people think that white people are racist, and they're just trying to get whatever they can. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we're dialoguing, I think it's helpful from the people that I find helpful to talk to that are African American. There are some that do call everyone racist. If they just disagree, it's like, oh, you're just racist. But like you said there, well, hold on. No, doesn't mean that they're racist. It just means they don't know any better. And that's where we should be saying, like Joe's talking about, I need to listen more.
It's where we need to have these conversations.
Yeah.
More, just like what's happening in this room, more people who differ need to come together and have a civilized conversation. We laugh
and honest.
But let's be honest about my experience versus your experience, and then say, all right, well, hopefully, I've learned something from you guys that I didn't know, and you've learned something from me, and then we can grow together. Yeah. And then we can take that and we can go, yeah, we're still brothers. We love each other.
For me, that's what really rubs me the wrong way, man, is, okay, so there are definitely people out there in the social justice movement that I think are saying horribly damaging things.
Yeah, I think some of those voices are not helpful.
Yeah, not helpful. And then some of the voices in the anti-social justice movement are damaging and they're not helpful.
Yep.
And part of the problem is we lose sight of something that you said you value, the individual. Right?
Yeah.
You don't treat people collectively as one thing. You say, treat people as individuals. We're trying to understand their experience and listen to them, and judge them on what they've done, what they say, what they believe. I'm gonna base it on that and not assume that I understand them. And this has happened on both extremes. And what this really bothers me, it grieves me, especially when it comes to brothers and sisters. I mean, a lot of this heat is about conservative Bible believing brothers and sisters who are just trying to figure things out and are disagreeing, and maybe mistakes are being made on both sides, but man, we should still champion that we love each other and care for each other. And if there is error, let's have the dialogue and try and fix each other where we can, or help each other, but let's also try to understand.
So
This
like even
dismissal
recent, yeah, but
of
even
people.
like even recently, what we've seen online with Askell and the Beatty, right?
Yeah.
That's a helpful.
That's
very beautiful.
That's a helpful dialogue there.
that was really
between
good.
Two individuals that love the Lord and love each other, or at least genuinely care for each other in the sense that there's a mutual respect. Because what I get tired of is when I'm watching or just online anti-social justice, just labeling, someone like Thabiti as the enemy, that, he's just wrong and he's racist. And on the flip side, social justice warriors thinking the same thing of Tom Askell, which is not true by any means.
And here's the thing. Thabiti, I love Thabiti, all right? I like saying his name, Thabiti Anwabile. That's just an awesome name. I like to say it. I like to say it all the time, Thabiti Anwabile. Thabiti is a godly man, and I have a lot of respect for him. And he has said some things in the past that I think are wrong and even dumb. And Tom Askell has said some things that I think are wrong and even dumb. And both have said things that are incredibly true and important. Now, one of the things that I love is Thabiti was like, hey man, I said some things and they were wrong. I shouldn't have said them. And here's they are. He articulated them. He repented of them. He's like, this was wrong. It was like a really powerful thing to do. It's a hard thing to do, to admit that, you know what I said here wasn't right. It wasn't true, or it wasn't good. So, but I also say things that are dumb and are wrong.
Yeah, every day.
And I need somebody smarter than Jimmy to actually help me to understand
First
what
of all,
they are.
I do help you understand. You just ignore it.
No, it's because
because
you
you're at that
mumble
old
and
age where you
don't-
forget.
You don't know big words. You can't even and I only know big words, so you really have a hard time.
Oh,
communicating.
because you're white and I'm only half white.
No,
so
because
you just
I
look
went-
at me
no,
as
because I
ignorant.
have advanced
Did you
degrees
understand? So
and
you
you don't.
understand. I understand that what you deal with, Travell, when you're dealing
Travell's
with.
vocabulary is 5 times bigger than yours.
What
so
we deal with, Jimmy.
That's
You're-
right.
You're one of us.
oh,
High five, high five.
No,
High
you're
five.
not. No, you're not. You're not.
What-
one of
why?
us. You're not one of us. That's why he's friends with Steve McCoy. He's so smart, intelligent, beautiful.
You're still trying to get
you've
to
got
Sarah.
a crush on Steve
also,
McCoy.
he has a beautiful family.
He does. They are beautiful.
Beautiful family.
I mean, some of them are more beautiful than others. Don't you think,
Steve,
Travell?
I don't know if
Yeah,
you have
I'll-
any daughters or anything,
He only has one.
but
I don't know. Is she? How old is she though?
I don't know.
She's in college.
Yeah,
Is she single?
I don't know.
Are you single?
I'm for sure single. Ladies,
Wait,
all the single ladies.
does she
all
have
the
a record?
single
You might
ladies.
have a lot in common. Does she have a record?
Probably.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, listen, we know that this is going to ruffle the feathers of some of our listeners, and you know what? That's okay. We
sure
actually
gonna get in trouble for this
that's okay.
Yeah.
We should be able to talk about these things. So we want you to give us feedback. If what are your thoughts on all of this? You can. You can push back. You're allowed to push back. Or you can agree, offer further insights or clarifications, especially, you know what? Especially if you're a minority. Oh, I know. Well, why especially the minorities? Why especially them? Well, because they are oftentimes underrepresented in their perspective in Reformed contexts. So that's why I'm saying, especially if you're a minority. We would love to hear your thoughts. And I don't know all of our social media stuff, but Jimmy does.
Yeah, you can follow us online on Instagram or Twitter at Doc and Devo, or on Facebook /Doctrine and Devotion. You can head to the website, doctrinedevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast. And if you click on the link there, you can register for the Doctrine and Devotion Conference happening September 28th in Rancho Santa Margarita.
You know what's interesting about that
Rancho
conference is
Cucamonga.
it's a micro conference, but it's already looking like it's going to be bigger than T4G.
The initial, already the initial reports.
Bigger than T4G in spirit, of course, not
Yes, in spirit.
numerically. No.
Yeah,
sure
for
you
sure
guys
it's
are-
already bigger than normal pastor conference. Yes, but we're working
That was
on
mean.
it. Was it?
It's supposed to be small. The normal pastor conference is supposed
Yeah,
to be
they're
small.
normal.
Yeah, I know.
Intimate.
So that's
The
why I
normal
know it's going to
Yes.
be bigger.
Okay, because we're not normal.
Because we're not normal.
There we go.
This is the abnormal pastors conference.
Yeah. Which is ironic because we don't have abs.
Well, no, it's just I have an ab.
You have an abscess. Okay, you don't have that.
Fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. Blog posts on Wednesdays.
Good blog posts.
Yep.
Get in on them blog posts.
Head on over to
Videos on
T4
Friday.
No, not yet.
yeah,
T4G.org and use the promo code Doctrine and save $10. Register today.
Wait a minute. What if they want to follow Travell? Travell, are you on the Instagrams?
I'm on the grams. It's my name, Travell Rounds, 2 L's.
Hey, wait. So your Instagram handle
Why?
is your name.
Why?
Travell Rounds.
Travell Rounds. Do you have any
right.
numbers in there?
No numbers.
Underscores.
No underscores.
What? That's weird.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what's your
Just stop
Instagram
it.
handle?
It's
Why?
J Fowler 129
63
55
backslash tilde.
underscore asterisk. Yeah. Also Twitter, same thing. Travell Rounds.
All right, follow
Facebook,
Travell.
Travell Rounds. It's pretty simple, Jimmy.
And if you
I
want,
got to the party late, guys.
really?
Yeah.
You're a millennial. What are you talking about?
I didn't like social
Aren't
media.
you a millennial? Yeah, you're a millennial, right? You don't even know.
What year were you born?
82.
You're a millennial. Oh no, you're not a millennial. You're not.
Whoa.
Depends on who you're talking to. Some would say 80 to 95. So you may or may not be a millennial.
Okay,
Just got
guys.
educated. Just
Yep.
got educated.
Thanks, Travell.
Yeah.
All right. Later.